Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Cardiff City World. We're here for another show. Obviously, it's the breakdown pod. A couple of days late for a variety of reasons, but with David Marshall's recent retirement from the beautiful game, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Scottish shot stopper. Cardiff City have been blessed with some top quality goalkeepers over the years. We've been very lucky. In fact, we've had a couple of good long ones. We've had a couple of good long-term ones. And I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about David's career and obviously with him retiring, but also kind of have that discussion. Is he the best goalkeeper that Cardiff City have ever had? We've had some really, really good ones, I've got to say. And, you can go way back. You can go to before my time and it's a never-ending conversation, but one which we're not going to be able to settle this evening. David Marshall, born in March '85 in Glasgow, Scotland, went on and just played an incredible amount of football matches for a variety of clubs. Obviously, started out with Celtic, played for Norwich, then played 264 games for Cardiff City before going on to play for Hull, Wigan, Derby, Queen's Park Rangers, Hibernian. Made 47 appearances for Scotland, first team as well as their 21s and B-side. A truly great goalkeeper and a goalkeeper who adapted along the way to change with the modern game. So he was very good with his feet as well. Was obviously the captain of Cardiff City for a period as well. And by all accounts, he saved us some defeats, got us some points, an exceptional goalkeeper. On the conversation of like the greatest ever for Cardiff, I think there's a couple of outliers like loan signings. Like Kasper Schmeichel was so good for us. He was very young at the time. But then you've also got like the longer term ones. Tom Heaton, by the way, was outstanding for us. And it's almost, I don't want to say a shame because he's doing what he wants to do and he's loving it. But he's Manchester United's third keeper now. Like Tom Heaton could be a Premier League number one somewhere. He's still, that good. You've obviously got people like George Wood back in the day, Gavin Ward, as I think someone mentioned, Martin Margerson, Andy Dibble. Neil Alexander is the one for me personally, kind of then. But then even more recently, like Neil Etheridge, quality keeper. Smithies, some people say. I'm not so sure on the Smithies one, but like Neil Alexander, Tom Heaton, Etheridge was quality, although had weaknesses in his game. For me, I think all around, like David Marshall probably just shades it over Neil Alexander. Like I felt like Neil Alexander did have certain weaknesses to his game, but as a shot stopper, he was just so good. And funny enough, just before this, I recorded a show talking about Cardiff City's greatest ever manager, which is out on Friday, so please check that out. But I talked in that about like you have a recency bias. I feel, and I see that a lot when people pick their Premier League 11s and you see a lot of recency bias. But I also think there's a nostalgia bias where you go back to your most enjoyable times, whether that's your 20s, your teens, whatever, your 30s, of following your football club, and you'll automatically place those players higher because of the pleasant memories that you have with them. Like for me, like Neil Alexander was one of my favorite players for Cardiff at the time. Like I loved him, but I feel, and again, you just don't know, maybe there's a bit of recency bias there, but like I feel like the all-round game of David Marshall is better. But I also remember like Neil Alexander was just unbelievable. Played 200 games plus for Cardiff in his own right, and was absolute, like, it was just quality, like time and time again. At a time where just he was keeping out, Martin Margerson, Tony Warner, people like this, and it's difficult, because the more I think about it, the more I lean towards Neil Alexander, because that's a time when I loved following Cardiff City and I loved that sort of period. But let's have a look at some of the different options in that discussion. Let's go back way back. If you go back to the 70s, I was speaking to someone earlier saying Jim Eadie is got to be in there. Played a massive part in one of Cardiff's biggest ever nights when they beat Real Madrid in the 1971 European Cup Winners' Cup. So, he's got to be in the discussion. Kasper Schmeichel, he was just a baby. He played 14 games for Cardiff, but was very, very, very good. Who else is there? You got David Williams. Gavin Ward was a massive one for me. I loved Gavin Ward. He was the first real goalkeeper when I kind of started going to watch Cardiff regularly coming into my teens. Gavin Ward was the guy. Tom Heaton's one of my favourite goalkeepers anyway. Going back further, obviously before my time, but people are saying Bill Irwin, John Halworth, another quality keeper back in the day, 1999. And then you can go back even further to the 60s, Fred Davis. Obviously, I can't really comment on them. You've got Dan Lewis, who according to Wales Online would not be considered a Cardiff City great, but his contribution to the club's history is huge, because after a mistake in the 1927, finally saw the Bluebirds beat Arsenal 1-0. There's so many names. George Wood is obviously up there, I think, in terms of his football. Well, so I'm trying to look at some of the older ones. Andy Dibble's a favourite, and I think, there's a lot of people who think Andy Dibble should come back to the football club now to coach the goalkeepers. He was a homegrown lad. He was there, and he was a real. Cardiff loved their homegrown players at the end of the day. Just trying to look at some of these older ones. Ron Healy, Neil Alexander is the man, and David Marshall. So according to Wales's Online is sort of top 20 list, the top 3 would be Neil Alexander, number 2 David Marshall, and then number 1 is Tom Farquharson, the greatest of them all. Kept goal in the 1927 FA Cup final win over Arsenal, and had a colourful backstory as well. Gonna have a little Google of Tom Farquharson. I'm not saying that these other players are not in the conversation by any means, but obviously they're way before my time, so it's difficult for me to judge. And obviously football was a very, very different game back in those days. Tom Farquharson played 445 games for Cardiff City. It's an incredible amount of football. And I'm sure, I have no doubt that at some point Terry Phillips will do a history of Cardiff City episode about Tom Farquharson, because it seems like he's got quite an interesting story, and played an immense amount of games for the club. Going back to Neil Alexander, I was so disappointed when he was sold, or when he left Cardiff City. But he was a quality goalkeeper. Etheridge is another interesting one. I feel like when Etheridge was here, he got quite a lot of grief for his distribution, his kicking, and that sort of thing. But I don't know, great shot stopper, immense. But when I look at David Marshall, I don't ever remember having a period of being worried about him, or thinking, oh, that's a bit of a weakness in his game, or this. And look, Cardiff have shopped really well in Scotland. Let's be honest. Made some cracking signings from Neil Alexander, from Super Kev, David Marshall, Don Cowie, Chris Burke. It's never ended. We've made some real good. Scottish market has been kind to us as Cardiff fans. Let's have a look at some of these comments. Paul says, my top 5 goalkeepers for Cardiff City: David Marshall, number 1, Martin Margerson, number 2, Tom Heaton, 3, George Wood, 4, Gavin Ward, 5. No Neil Alexander in there at all, Paul. Wow. Reece getting in there early. Neil Alexander, all-time great for me. My favourite all-time player. City player. Jonathan says Kasper Schmeichel was brilliant. Don't know why we didn't try and sign him permanently. Apparently the club did feel he was worth 1 million. Oh, Jesus. That's like the most Cardiff thing ever, isn't it? Alexander did it for us before we had any training facilities, etc. Was Scotland's number one. We weren't even playing playoff chasing team as well. We were fighting relegation. Cried when he left. Yeah, I was very, very disappointed when he left. Jonathan saying there, we've done well with the Scottish market, indeed. Reece says, nothing against David Marshall. I do love him, but look at the defence Alexander had in front of him compared to Marshall. Yeah, but just look, you go back and watch like David Marshall, some of those games that he would just keep us in games single-handedly with his saves, and I just think all around he was just incredible. John Harworth was keeper when I was very small, always left an impact on me. We had a Polish keeper back in 2009. I want to say I scored past him at the Grange End in Ninian Park. Go on, Reece. Gavin Wards. Honourable mention to Neil Etheridge and Smithies, both top keepers. See, I wasn't so sure about Smithies, but I accept all opinions. Let's have a look. Paul says Marshall, I'd say, was a better all-round keeper. Alexander was a great keeper, but he played lower league, whereas Marshall was Championship, Premier League. Both played for Scotland. Yeah, mate, when it comes down to it, I think like David Marshall played at the top level, didn't he? You know, he played for Scotland, played Champions League football for Celtic, played in the Premier League, and his record speaks for itself. In fairness, he made over 600 league appearances in his career. He's just, and by all accounts, a jolly good chap, which is an added bonus. But I'm interested in people's opinions. You know, do you think David Marshall is the greatest goalkeeper to play for Cardiff City? Is there someone else who you think? No, actually, I think he is the greatest goalkeeper that played for Cardiff. You know, I know, like Reece has said in the comments, he leans towards Neil Alexander, but then is it because that was his favourite player, like growing up and stuff like that, and you have that little bit of nostalgia bias? Let's have a look at Neil Alexander's stats, David Marshall's stats, sorry, and see what his sort of career stats were in terms of his goalkeeping. But it is an interesting one, and like I said, we've just done a show on Dimi Konstantopoulos. Do you know what? When he came on the show though with Andy, he was top quality. I really enjoyed chatting to him. Brunnerton is obviously the best. Give me the t-shirts, baby. Give me the t-shirts. Yeah, mate. Brunnerton is by far the greatest goalkeeper that's ever played for Cardiff City, and I won't have anyone disagree. Will not have anyone disagree. Absolute top quality, and it was shambolic that we sent him back. David Marshall, born in Glasgow. My computer's frozen, so I can't look at his stats, so it's handy. But I'm interested in people. Well, that's what I was saying. So me and Pan just literally filmed the most or the greatest Cardiff City manager of all time. And we kind of had a discussion about different managers. Again, it's difficult because, we can only talk. I can only really talk about the managers that you've sort of experienced and gone through. Pan's a bit older than me, so he goes back a bit further. We tried to, throw a couple in the conversation, but it was an interesting conversation, though, I got to say. It was really interesting. Kind of going back and looking at the criteria as well, because Dave Jones never got promoted, never won us anything. But is he in the conversation? I guess you'll find out on Friday. It's going to be good. So David Marshall, retired. It's a sad day for football. You know, won 50 odd caps for Scotland. They had some good keepers, mind, at the same time. When Marshall was kind of playing, McGregor and Gordon had some some good keepers like competing with him, and he forced his way in there without a shadow of a doubt. I remember when he signed for Cardiff from Norwich, 2009 or something, a couple of days after my first wedding anniversary, in fact. I was super excited because Enkelman was a liability. This is just a fact. CFA Cup final. David Marshall, from the very first time he played, was just incredible. I mean, like, it was mad. Like, at one point we had like Tom Heaton and Marshall as our two keepers, and I think both are kind of in that conversation for the most talented goalkeepers that played for Cardiff City. Really, I don't. How many games did Tom play for Cardiff? Obviously, he was on loan. Only played 21, but from an ability point of view, I don't think you can doubt his. Well, he had 2 stints, didn't he? So he had the first stint he played 21 games. Second stint he played 29. But from a talent point of view, Tom Heaton was top draw. David Marshall, club captain in 2014, took over from Mark Hudson. In the final game of the 2014-15 season against Nottingham Forest, David Marshall was sent off for violent conduct, meaning that he would miss the first 3 games of the following season. Cardiff manager Russell Slade, shiver down my spine, admitted that he was unsure whether Marshall would retain the captaincy if Cardiff got off to a good start. Let me tell you something. Russell Slade, if he says it, it's wrong. Marshall was subject to a £4.5 million bid from West Brom that summer, which Cardiff rebuffed. Well, that's a bit of a... When did Cardiff ever turn down that sort of money? Very surprised. He was sent off after he lashed out at Matt Derbyshire after the striker had pulled at him. And they went down for a penalty. There you go. Cardiff placed a £10 million valuation on Marshall following attention from Premier League clubs. And despite the playoffs for the majority of the season, Cardiff missed out, losing to Sheffield Wednesday. Of course they did. But nice to see that Cardiff didn't just sell him on the cheap, because I think that is a common thread for Cardiff City. Stephen Bywater. Wow. Could tell some stories. Well, Chops told a couple of stories about him, didn't he? He said he was a lunatic. I love an eccentric keeper on me. Like, as much as I love Marshall, like, he is a proper goalkeeper, but he's quite together, isn't he? And he's quite a good guy and great goalkeeper. Like, give me a nutter. Give me a crazy keeper. Love a bit of crazy keepers. I think you've always got to be a bit crazy. Jonathan, that's a cracking point, that is. You want some revision of Cardiff money stupidity, turned down $7 million from Wolves for McCormick and sold him the following season to Leeds for $2.5 grand. 250 grand. That is the most Cardiff thing going. Stephen Bywater was bad, but he was crazy crackers. Chops told a couple of good stories about him. I like a crazy keeper. Reese says Dave Jones's greatest strength is he could spot a player. The signings that laid the foundation for us to be the club we are today. 100%. That was one of the things I discussed in the show was Lenny Lawrence and Dave Jones. Without them, we are not where we are today. Another interesting thing which we talked about was Dave Jones said recently in an online interview that at that time at Cardiff, when he first came in, he literally was looking at like players with personal issues and players who had been kind of dropped by their clubs for behaviour issues and stuff because they were cheaper to get. And he was working with them. And look, mate, like you can't knock the job that Dave Jones did was impressive with those players. Nobody got a tune out of Jay Bothroyd like Dave Jones did. He's got in the England squad in the Championship. Like nobody. The problem with Dave Jones was he just never got us over the line. We seen him come so close so many times, and he just never quite got us over the line. And then Mackay comes in, and the football's not as good to watch, but the relationship with the fans is better straight away. Like Malky had a massive relationship with the fans. Dave Jones never did. He was always off with the fans. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I think Dave Jones, he deserves a tremendous amount of credit. It's an interesting conversation we have. Look out for that on Friday because we're filming something special on Friday as a group. So no one's about to do a live show Friday. So we are putting out a pre-recorded episode, the greatest Cardiff City managers of all time. Ross Turnbull was absolute dreadful for us, and you're right, went on and played for Chelsea. It's a funny old game, isn't it? It's a funny old game. Sometimes, like what did I say the other week? Sometimes it's just about the right person at the right club, and it all clicks into place. And you might have looked dreadful elsewhere, but suddenly you look like a player. Suddenly you look like a manager. Whatever it may be, it's just the right place, the right atmosphere, the right ground, the right facilities, the right fans. Everything's just in place, like nicely. It happens a lot. Like it's just finding that right place for you. We should have a new episode of the History of Cardiff City coming probably next week now, I think, or maybe late this week. But it's on Robin Friday, so I'm really, really looking forward to that. I think it's going to be a cracking episode. I know Terry's been working hard on it the last couple of days. So looking forward to editing that and then putting that out. But, Robin Friday, it's a rock and roll star, baby. It's going to be really looking forward to that one, I got to say. If you've got any questions, guys, get them in. Because obviously the goalkeeper debate is fairly limited. But I basically wanted to make mention of David Marshall's retirement and discuss him like he's such a quality goalkeeper for Cardiff. A real quality goalkeeper for Cardiff. And as I say, in my opinion, he is the best goalkeeper to ever play for Cardiff City, certainly in my generation. But there's a few which come close. And I think Neil Alexander is probably one which... Does he come closest? Yeah, I think he probably does, But it is a tricky one because there's a bit of recency bias and nostalgia bias maybe, but for me, Dave Marshall's the greatest. Like his all round game was impeccable. Like he was just so good shot stopping, good with his feet, talk to his defense, quick off his line. Just greatest Cardiff manager of all time. It's an interesting one. What did you guys make of the Paul Abbandonato interview yesterday? I thought Paul spoke really well. I thought he was kind of as honest as he could be, and there were certain things which I think he would have liked to have shined a bit more of a light on, but couldn't for whatever reason. But what did you guys make of it? Like, obviously, you're the guys that matter. What was your opinion on said interview? Did you enjoy it? Did you not? I know I tried to get to all the questions. There was quite a few people in the chat and stuff, so I sort of tried to do my best to get through as many as possible, but it's not always easy to do so. But we got a bit of a more chilled show this evening. So, if you've got any questions, stuff like that, get them in. computer's frozen, so I can't see the chat at the moment, but I'm sure it's full of questions. It'd be interesting now. Like the transfer rumours are going to really start hotting up. I think over the next week, 2 weeks, I think it's going to get intense. I think the Euros is holding it back a little bit, but I think the rumours and the discussions will really start kicking off, like going into July. I just would like to see Cardiff get their business done early, like just for a change. Just like to see us be super organised, go bang, bang, bang. There's your signings, there's your players out. Let's do pre-season. It would be such a refreshing change to feel like we've got a plan and we're being proactive. As I've said a few times, let's be proactive, not reactive. But I think there's probably a bit of complication with the finances and things, but just got to do what we can do, as it were. I'll get to the comments now when the screen unfreezes. I'm sure it'll come along nicely in a minute. But yeah, I thought Paul was really good. I enjoy talking to him. Done a couple of shows with him now, and he's someone who I'd like to get involved a bit more on the channel. And he's coming down Friday for this recording that we're doing, which we're not discussing yet, but we'll be discussing it soon. Well, it'll be out soon enough. Don't you worry about that. Let's have a look. Fun fact: Vincent Tan sacked Dave Jones, and then like 2 years later, I had to go at him for the way the club was playing. Jones had to tell him he sacked him 2 years ago, and Tan didn't have a clue. Funny. Vincent Tan wanted to say sell David Marshall because he played every game and didn't score a goal was special. Do you remember? Have you seen the clip from when we had Kenwyn Jones on Ace Podcast Nation? And he said when Solskjaer was the manager, Vincent Tan wanted to play. I forget what it was off the top of my head, but it was something along those lines, and he wanted to play a keeper up front or like something mad. And he was trying to tell Solskjaer to play certain people and. Crazy. Paul says most of the keepers at Ninian Park was helped by the man in the counter end. Jonathan says, does Vincent Tan still sit the players down in pre-season to show them videos of the goals scored from the halfway line, saying they should shoot from their own half? His football knowledge should not be questioned. So look. Reese said, I don't think Paul said anything we weren't fully aware of. Surprised me, saying that he didn't think Dramer would be so good. Be good, and don't call O'Dowd a winger, as it means we won't sign one. Yeah, it's true. I got to be honest, like, I slightly disagree with Paul in regards to, like, I think he said we need 4 signings. Slightly disagree. I think we need probably more than that, but I don't think, like some people are on about getting like 2 fullbacks, 2 wingers, 2 midfielders, 2 strikers. I don't think we need that. I think we need a fullback at the moment. If Perry and G goes, I think we need 2. I think we need one midfielder, and like we need a number 8. I think we need 1 winger, maybe 2, but I think, particularly with the finances the way they are, signing like a striker who can also play wide as well as the main number 9 would be interesting. And we'll get loan players in. I wouldn't mind seeing Lewis Kumas come in on loan. I think he could be an interesting choice. Yeah, I didn't agree with that. The Dramer not being good enough defensively. I think he's good. Yeah, I just, like, for me, Cody Dramer is a no-brainer. I think free transfer, get it done, and get it done early. But I think it's difficult, isn't it? Because, like, you make a good point there, Jonathan, is like, I know that Paul knows some other stuff. and probably some more detail about some stuff which you discussed yesterday. But you can't always say too much because whether it's breaking a confidence or whether if you say too much you expose who's told you, and it is tricky. But I was surprised that I was surprised how he didn't seem to think, or didn't gave the impression, should I say, that Perry and G wasn't as nailed on to move as everyone seems to think. But look, it is what it is, isn't it? Obviously, you can't deny Paul's got very good contacts within the football club. There's no doubt about that. But I think I would be very surprised if Perry and G, we don't get a couple of bids for him. Now, whether we get bids big enough to sell him is another thing. Jonathan, you just made a point which I meant to make to Paul yesterday, but we got distracted and I didn't. Bullock plugged the back five in Europe, and if he wanted that here, Dramer can play right wing back and Perry and G centre back. Yeah, mate, I mentioned this a couple of times last year. I actually think that were we to sign a Kipre or even Nat Phillips back, I think we will go 3-5-2. And he'll play McGuinness, Phillips, and Gutas. And then he'll have the wing backs. And I think that's also a way that you might see whoever the number 9 is, with Colwell as the sort of second striker, as a number 10 in that system, with a solid base behind him to give him a bit more freedom. Yeah, I think Atete goes on loan, Reece, to be honest. I just don't see a place for him. I can't. I mean, saying that, Bullock likes him. He's got to stay fit, first and foremost. Got to stay fit. Let's have a look. Some of these other comments. Reece says, we've lost 4 loan players. We need to cover them. We also need players in key areas. Yeah, I think if we signed, right, Dramer, a number 8, a striker and a winger, just that, we'd get by. We'd have to use, some of the youth players, some of the younger players, and probably keep a couple of players that maybe we don't want to, but we could get by. But I think if you signed those 4, like Dramer, 8, a 9 and a winger, and then bring in 2-3 loans, I think you're cooking then, and then you can release, you can sell a Robinson, a Wintle, and an NG without worrying about depth. But it's going to be interesting what they do, because I'm not really sure. Reece also says he did surprise me when he said that one Premier League club's been showing a real interest in Ruben. Yeah, I did that a couple of weeks back. I can't remember if we talked about it, but I would like to think that we'll hold on to him for one more season at least. But it depends how much money people are going to bid for him. Because I do think there's an argument to be made if you're a lower Premier League club. If you sign Ruben Colwell now, you get him pretty cheap. If he has an incredible season next year, and we've got a proper striker and we've got some wingers around him who can do some stuff, and his stats are much better and he plays to a similar standard, if not better, he's going to cost way, way more. So if you're one of those clubs, is he worth a gamble? Probably. I think so. But I do think that there's a real player there, and I would like Cardiff City to really be steadfast with some of these players and say, no, I don't want to, we don't want to sell this player. So unless you're going to bid silly money, don't bother coming, sort of thing. That's an interesting one. Jonathan says, I wouldn't like Kipre or Phillips in a back three with McGuinness and Gutas, to be honest. No, NG has the mobility that Gutas lacks. So does Phillip. Yeah, no, I don't think you're wrong. I guess what I was saying is, I do think, or I wouldn't be surprised to see Errol Bullock revert to a 3-5-2 if he signs certain players. And I guess my other point is if Kipre or Phillips are at Cardiff City next season, they ain't there to sit on the bench. So it's like, do you drop McGuinness, who was probably arguably one of your best players at the start of the first half of the season before his injury, or do you drop Gutas, who's his guy? It's fascinating. Reese says, as you know, I'm not a fan of the back five. I don't like it. I do like the 4-2-3-1 he plays. He just needs the right players added for it to come off. Yeah, I think it's important that we get a mobile number 8 who's gonna not just progress the ball and be able and capable of playing through the lines and playing it into the Colwells and Ramseys of the world, but also then follows the ball and goes and gets it back and things like that. And he's got a bit of aggression about him. I like Moet, I do. I think Paul mentioned him as well. Like, I really like Moet. I haven't given up completely on Turnbull, but I just don't think the manager sees him as that position. And I wonder where Turnbull fits in, because I think Ramsey's going to play in the 10 if he's fit. I did find it interesting that Paul thinks that Ruben will play off the right or the left in a kind of Phil Foden role, because that was something which I mentioned. I think it was in one of the last 5 things of the season we talked about that, and I think I can see that, and I can see it working as well, depending, as long as if he plays that role, the full back behind him is quite attacking. So Cody Dramer behind a Colwell wide would work exceptionally well, because Ruben drifting would create a massive space for an attacking fullback. So what you don't want is a fullback who's going to kind of sit on the halfway line. You need him to be progressive and break the lines. I'd like to see Tanner get a chance. I wouldn't be against Tanner being the backup left back either. Jonathan says, we don't have many options on the wings, to be honest. Robinson likely to go. Leaving O'Dowda, Mate, Tanner, and obviously Bowler and Grant have gone back. So my thing, like O'Dowda, if we could keep O'Dowda fit for the season, I think he's a great option as a winger. I think he's really, really good footballer. My worry is that I just don't see him playing 30, 40 games next year. Mate, I'm still like a bit half and half, and obviously Tanner is potential, so I can see it. I think O'Dowda's probably the left wing back, particularly if we don't sign, if in a 5, if we don't sign Cody Dramer, then I think O'Dowda would be the left wing back. But I think, like you say there, Jonathan, Conte, Tanner could both do it very well. It's an interesting one with Bullock. Like, what's he gonna do? How is he gonna progress on from what he did last year? Like, he's built the foundation. What's the next step for him now? So like what Reese said, interesting. One of the things Bullock's wanted assurances on was player sales. He wants a say in who goes. I wonder if that's because he doesn't want the likes of Turnbull, etc. at the club and that board signed. Yeah, I'm sure that'll come out one day. Paul says Ruben could do a job like Bale did when he was at Spurs. Yeah. Siopis sitting with the wing backs going forward would benefit Siopis massively. He's perfect defensively, but adds nothing going forward. 0 goals from open play in his career. Yeah, the 1 goal he's got is a penalty. Yeah, I think Siopis as an out-and-out defensive midfielder is one of the best in the Championship. But we have to get the players around him to allow him to just be that. And if that's doing a 3-5-2 and having wing backs and whatnot. We have to get the right midfield partner for him. Sometimes that midfield partner is going to be Joe Rolls, but it won't be Joe Rolls all the time. It can't be Joe Rolls all the time. It has to be someone else. I think next week we'll do a video looking at the potential number 8s that Cardiff could sign to partner. Sorry, I forgot his name then. Because I think there's so many. There's so many different types of options. So I'm going to have a good old research and try and find 5 like really good options who I think fit that sort of what's needed. And I know we had like a little look, didn't we, at the free transfers at the start of the season. Yeah, I'd rather play Ashford off the right than Mate. I thought Keane Ashford was quite impressed. I was quite impressed with him. I mean, I thought him and Conte particularly did really well, but I thought that Louis Giles did all right as well. I want to see those guys involved in the squad, and my worry is if we sign 2 wingers on top of the names that we just mentioned, what does that do for Keane Ashford's progress? Because he's going to be really struggling for time, because the manager's going to, off the bench is going to be your Mates and your Tanners and whoever. Like, I want to see Keane Ashford getting game time, whether it's from the start or the bench. I think that's important for his development this year, and it's important for Cardiff as a club as well. I would like, in the EFL Cup early rounds this year, I would really like to see Keane Ashford play through the middle with one of the Colwells behind him, because they've obviously got a very good relationship off the field. I'd like to see how Ashford does through the middle in one of the early rounds of that EFL Cup tournament, and just see how he does, see how it works, because it's something which interests me, because we always think like, oh, you've got to have a, like that strong number 9, he's got to be a big target man, etc. Does he have to be a big target man? Could it just, would the way that Bullet plays be more suited to a pacey, small striker with a big number 10 like Ruben? Would that suit his system better? I don't know. It's interesting to me, to say the least. But we shall see, guys. We shall see. Let's have a look. Right, if you've got any further questions, then do get them in. Tomorrow night is quiz night on the Flower Hour, so make sure you check that out. What are we? Wednesday, so then Thursday we'll have something. I don't know what yet. Maybe the history of Cardiff City. We got Friday, the greatest ever manager, Cardiff City's greatest ever manager, which is a good one. And we're filming something on Friday, which will be out. It won't be out immediately. Like, it'll take some time for that to come out. It's going to take some editing, shall we say? But it's going to be fun. But you should check out that show on Friday. It's going to be, or it is. I've obviously just filmed it. It's really good conversation regarding Cardiff City managers, and obviously there's a few which crop up in terms of how they, how they performed. How does history look on them? And I also asked Pan the question at the end. Does he think in 10 years' time that Errol Bullitt will be in that conversation for greatest ever Cardiff City manager? Put him on the spot a little bit. And if he thinks that that Bullitt will be a long-term success. So that was interesting too. But no, it was fun. It was fun. It was, and so a bit of reminiscing in there as well, obviously. Looking back to when in my younger days, which is always fun. Looking back on, certain times, certain places. Warnock and Matt Malky and Dave Jones and the rest of it. It's certainly a conversation, but we shall see. That'll be out. That's out Friday, definitely, 100%. I'm hopeful that we'll have the Robin Friday episode of the history of Cardiff City out on Thursday. Flower Hour quiz show tomorrow, among other things. So I can't wait for you guys actually to see I can't wait for you all to see like what we're filming on Friday. It's gonna be cool, man. No, it's gonna be this. I'm looking forward to that. I gotta say, it's gonna be a belter. Do you know what we need on the channel? More Scottish people. Just saying, more Scottish. We need a Scottish voice. What's Marky Mackay doing these days? He'd be good, wouldn't he? So, right, let's have a look at some of these comments to finish off. There, you see that guy's left Seville B, I think it is, on a free. That Ajuke is signed for Seville, but the other winger that we were linked to, or the other forward that we were linked to from Seville, has been released and is available on free, which is interesting. Let's have a look. Paul says Ashford will grow into that position if given games. Same as Conte. I want to see more of him. I thought he'd done really well. Yeah, he did really, really well. Reece says, surprised we gave a new contract to Kieran Evans. The games he played earlier in the season, he failed to impress me. Go out on loan. Done decent, but at his age, he's not cut out. Jonathan says, Bullet liked Kieran Evans in pre-season. So play the youngsters will have an impact on the fans getting behind the players rather than getting frustrated. I agree with that completely. Wish it wasn't the case. Like, you wish it was a United thing. But it is what it is. Well, Paul, you know what to do, mate. Get that Scottish accent out. It's coming round quick. 6th of July. It's coming round quick. Splott Cons Club, Ace Podcast Nation presents City Legends featuring Mr. Joe Ledley, Welsh and Cardiff City legend. It's going to be an absolute belting night. It's going to be a cracker. Cannot wait. So excited. It's really blown me away, like how many tickets have been sold, and there's like literally a handful left. By far, well, not by far, but it is the big, in terms of tickets sold, it's the biggest event which I've put on. Really looking forward to hosting and having Joe and seeing you all there. If you haven't got your tickets yet, there is, as I say, a handful left. Get involved. The details are in the description below on YouTube, all over the socials. They're also across the bottom of the screen there. £10, absolute bargain. And the latest in a long line of City Legend events being put on by Ace Podcast Nation. Been some belters. Chopra, Campbell, Pearce, Boland, the most recent. So there's lots and lots going on. Lots and lots happening on the channel. Cardiff City content 7 days a week. What more do you want? And it's only going to get bigger and it's only going to get better the more it grows. So please support the channel, support the various shows, support the people, support the everything. Spread the word is the most important thing. Got to say, like telling your City supporting mates, telling them to subscribe, attend the event, whatever it may be. Spread the word. Helps us out a lot. And obviously, make sure you're subscribed yourself and whatnot, because that helps massively. We hit another subscriber milestone today, which was nice, which is it's all going in the right direction. And the more it grows, the more we'll do, basically. It's the way it goes. Everything just goes back into the channel, and everything is it's a good time, baby. Okay, think that's me for tonight. But if you didn't know it already, David Marshall is the greatest goalkeeper to ever play for Cardiff City. If you want to find out who I think is the greatest manager that Cardiff City have ever had, then you should tune in Friday, 8 o'clock for that, because it's going. That's another really interesting show. And make sure you come and join the Flower Hour boys tomorrow for quiz night. Until then, it's been a pleasure. Take care. Have a great night. Enjoy the football. And we'll see you in a bit.